Okay, so last week we talked about working with parabolas, right? When you guys were messing around with parabolas. So the only thing that I want you guys to kind of go through with parabolas is this part right here. Last week you had the vertex there. So you would have had this as a x minus h squared plus v. And the vertex right there is what h and v was from last week. That's what we're kind of messing around with. Now with sine graph, the way I'm going to show you guys is, I'll give you guys an opportunity to play with it later on. But basically, you guys need to put your sine graph into a 4x2 grid. And I'll show you guys what I mean by. Because this just makes it so much more easier. So your sine graph will start like this, go through the middle there, come to the bottom, and it goes through one cycle there. All right, so the blue line right there is just one cycle or one period of a sine graph. Now, if you want to know a few things about it, so a couple of things to notice is the distance from here to here, the one cycle, is actually known as P. All right, what P stands for is the period, so how long it actually takes to complete one cycle. The next thing to know is the amplitude. So the amplitude goes from here to here. All right, so that's what's known as amplitude, which is going to be A. So amplitude is like how far the sine graph is stretched up and down. Okay, so the general formula that we're going to be using for this one, I hope I can remember this, but y is a sine that's literally the formula we're going to try and work with. All right, now I know it looks quite long, all right, but reality-wise, all of these things, I'm going to show you guys where it comes from. So the A, I'm going to replace it with the red color there because that's the amplitude. The P is your period right there. And now you're wondering where the H and V is going to start off from. So the H and V is this point right here. Now in most sine graphs, people have I think they just kind of use different language. The way I see it is that I always put that starting point there as H and V. All right, that's like the easiest way for me to try and remember where the sine graph is. And always I try and work with like a 4x2 grid because I look at the sine graph just in that 4x2 grid and it really helps me to kind of work it out. So can I just show you guys one example of how to actually get what it'll look like? So here's a little example. So we got this point. I'll put a few points up. And let's say that this point right here is, I'm going to try and do this 1, 7. Let's make this 4, 7, 7, 7. Oh, shit, I'm mad. So let's say in this example, you got those five points there. I hope I got it right because I'm like tired as hell from this traveling. But anyway, here we go. So one of the suggestions I say is this. Always draw a 4x2 grid around the sine graph. All right? Because then you can actually figure out all the information that you need to know. So I'm going to create a little 4x2 grid here. Is that okay, what I've done there so far? So then, what I need to work out first is the period. So to find the period, I need to figure out how long is this box. So the way I'm going to figure out is right here. This is 1, and this is 7. That means x is equal to 1 at this point right here, and here x is equal to 7, which means the period is 7 minus 1, which equals to 6. Now we're going to do a lot of practice on this, guys, so don't stress about it. All right? I'm going to give you guys heaps of practice on these questions. The next thing is trying to figure out the amplitude. Now the amplitude is actually right here. That's what the amplitude is. And to figure out the amplitude, I look at the y values. So I've got 12 there, and I've got 7 there. And if I go 12 minus 7, that ends up being 5 as the amplitude. And also if you look at it the other way, I've got 7, take away 2, that's also going to be 5, because the amplitude has to be same when it's up and like from the middle, it's going to go 5 up and 5 down. So amplitude is 5 in this case. Finally, I need my starting point. And as you guys can see, my starting point is 1, 7, which means I've got my equation. So what do we got? Where's my... So I know that the equation is y is equal to a, and then I think I had sine of 2 pi divided by p, and then x minus h plus v. And I think the h and v is in blue, so I just got to replace all the numbers now. So a was 5, the period was 6, so I got y equals 5 sine 2 pi over that, x minus h and v is 1, 7. All right? That's basically how you guys can get an equation of a sine graph. Now, this is just one example. Tomorrow we'll actually, I'll show some couple of other examples and I'll record it again. But this is just to get us started today. Okay? So let's just have a quick look whether this would actually work. Now, guys, this is shared with you on, I think I've put the link up on your Google Classroom so you guys can access this page anytime you want. But I want to go back and just double check whether this actually works. So my points were 1, 7. Was it 2.512? And then what do I have? 5, 7 or 4, 7? So guys, if you can see this, you can see that my 5 points are there. And as I said, it's always a good idea to check your answers. So my amplitude was 5. So I've got 5 sine 2 pi. By the way, if you want to put pi real quickly in Desmos, just type in pi and it'll convert to pi automatically, all right? So 2 pi over 6. And then x minus 1. There you go. All right. So it's another good way to actually just check your answer is always put the points and then put your equation in Desmos to actually see whether it actually goes through those 5 points. Okay, guys, that's basically it. All right. I'll give you guys some examples to work out of, and then that's what we'll do for the rest of the session. All right. And